And we're back with the show. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here. I'll tell you what. So you want to get back into, or so you want to get into Dungeons and Dragons. It's something that has been going around, as a game, as a staple of pop culture for decades now. And on the Wayback Machine, this guy right here played it for a little while. He got a taste of it, but life got into the way. And decades later, Josh and I were talking about maybe going into it. We talk about it. Well, there's no more excuses for anyone out there that wants to get into Dungeons and Dragons. You have the time on your hands, and there's so many great people and so many great organizations out there that are willing to help you as a new player or as a returning player get into Dungeons and Dragons. And there's going to be two great guests with me right now. One is, first off, Curtis Watkins. I met him on one of the great Facebook groups, and I want to give them a big shout out right now because they've been such a great part of what's going on here. And since I'm based in Vegas, I thought I reached out to them first, and it's the North Las Vegas and Henderson Dungeons and Dragons All Levels Welcome public group on Facebook. Curtis, it's great to have you on the program.
Hey there, guys. How you doing tonight?
We're good. And as a new player, because I am the returning player after decades, almost got to wipe off the cobwebs and all that. The new player, the noob and all, is a good man indeed. He's one half of the Go Brothers gaming duo between him and his brother. And his brother's out wreaking havoc somewhere. I don't know where. But it is Octavio Gomez. Octavio, great to have you back on once again. Appreciate you going into this venture with me on this. And I know you're as excited as I am to get into Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, I've never fully had the experience of playing it, but I've always heard lots of great things. And, it's become such a staple in recent media. You see it. It's always been, but it's coming back, and it's kind of shedding its light a little bit more, and I'm ready to get into it.
Well, Curtis, I want to ask you that because you said you're like us, you just getting back into it too. A little bit ahead of us, but it has in the 90s and the 2000s. It actually did go. I didn't say it. It went behind the scenes a little bit. It was still there. There was still a ardent hardcore audience that was following it. But I think it took the advent of streaming and Twitch to bring it back into light. Podcasts, which are all over the place now, and hopefully even ours will get to go ahead and broadcast games that are going on in detail. I mean, now it is. I'm going to say this: it's more popular than ever.
Well, I think that to a certain degree, it's always been around. It's just there's a great book out there that I just got after I got back into gaming in the game itself. It's called Art and Arcana, and it's published by Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons, and it's a complete artistic history from first edition to now, and it also explains the ups and downs of the company and the game and what's happened the whole time it's been out for the last 40 years or so, and 50 years, and it's very intriguing to read because the reasons why the 90s were different in the 2000s, and you might think it was underground, is because TSR at the time was trying to get into the electronic age and get their game out there and get more people interested in a different way because everyone's on their computers more. That's where you got stuff like Baldur's Gate, Forgotten Realms, that kind of thing. And those games that if you were gaming in the 90s and 2000s online, you're kind of familiar with that because that was RPG games at the time, and that's where they were trying to get their foothold in there. So it was always around. It just was in a different form.
And I agree with you. I mean, like you said, that pen and paper, roll the dice RPG type scenario did transfer itself over in the 90s to what Apple, Commodore Amiga, and the early PCs.
Discs, all that, yeah.
Exactly. So it transferred into that format, and people started following it there. But the game itself, as far as the tabletop RPG version, was always there in the background, just waiting to come out and be a great part of pop culture again. And in the past decade, like I said, with the onset of Twitch and streaming, it's gotten a higher profile than ever before. And it's just great to see. Now, a lot of people are getting into it. A lot of people are interested. A lot of people just have fun listening and watching the games as they go on. I can tell you.
Role. Yes,
exactly.
Role is a very good example of that. Yes.
So I can just tell you right now that, the last time I played back in the 80s, late 80s, I had just a great time. And I was telling Octavio this earlier that, it ended up, I'm going to say at that time, I was one of those players where you go, the guys and gals who would deviate from the actual campaign that was going on, where it went into a mano type war type detail as far as whose 10,000 minions can defeat the other 10,000 minions. So while we're rolling dice to try to beat each other, the DM is looking like with the eyes of death, going, you know what? I think I should just go ahead and knock you both out of the game. So, but you know what? I was probably as good as laugh as I've ever had. It was a great time indeed. And I'm looking forward to getting back into it with the whole community now. And we were just overwhelmed at the support both Octavio and I got into it. I mean, share your thoughts about getting back into it. What were the steps that you took in getting back into it?
Well, it started with my brother and I, who, many, many moons ago when we were 12 and 13 and spending all our summers in Las Vegas in between school. And there were two things we were doing. We were going swimming, and then we were going in the garage and playing Dungeons and Dragons. We had the red box from 1983 with all that beautiful art with the dragon and the fighter coming out with a sword. You're thinking, what's going to happen? So we spent many, 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 many days for a few years playing that game. And, we still laugh about it. I killed my brother's fighter off, or I forget which character it was. He had gotten to like 15th level, and I rolled the dice and I said, sorry, you're done.
He's so proud of himself, and all of a sudden you stepped in.
His mind. It's like, no, and I think we stopped playing after that. But we started talking about it the last 6 months or so, because his son was interested in it, and my stepdaughter was very interested in the whole lore and the way it works and the combat and the world building and all that stuff. So that's when we decided, hey, we're going to look into this and see what's involved. And we looked into the books, and then we just went ahead and went full bore. Got the new core rule books, and we got a couple with the starter kit and the essentials kit, and we've got so much stuff now to play with that it's crazy. And honestly, we both sit there now and look at all the stuff out there now that you can do to enhance the game, between soundboards, between dry erase maps, between just all kinds of character sheets that just make it easy. You don't have to write it out. It's all right there, ready to go for you. If we had all this stuff when we were 13 years old, we would never have gotten out and met new people. We just would have been stuck in the garage the whole time.
That can't necessarily be a bad thing now, mind you.
Yeah. And that's the funny thing about nowadays. Like, we've gone full circle. We have all this technology. Everybody's so detached. They're all in their phones. They're kind of doing their own thing. And I honestly looked at it like a moment to where we could sit with my brother, who I don't see all that often, and our kids, and get them together, and everybody has to talk. Everybody has to feel things out. Everybody has to sit there and say things and do things and roll dice and interact. It's very opposite of what the world is now. And that's what's the amazing thing, I think, about the appeal about Dungeons and Dragons. Even though it's on Twitch and it's on YouTube and you can do it like remotely, I think the biggest appeal is to be able to sit down with people you don't see all the time and interact in a way that you normally wouldn't do anymore. Like, that's gone by the wayside. Now you're trying to get that back in the home or into your relationships with your friends or whoever.
Well, Octavio, I know you've got a question for Curtis to ask, because, as a brand spanking new player, I know there's a lot of things going through your mind, and I know that you got a lot of questions asked, but let's go ahead and hear what you have to say as far as, talking about getting into Dungeons and Dragons.
Give it to me, Octavio. Let's go.
I was just kind of, I don't know. I was, as you said before about your stepdaughter, I was kind of also interested in like the world building, because, I know they have the books and they kind of explain a little bit what happens in the background, but I'm not too sure how that works.
Well, it's not a little bit, honestly, because there's there's first of all the core rule books between the player's handbook, the dungeon master's guidebook, and the monster manual. You can get lost in those books for weeks or months, and then there's the modules out there that are out there. You have so many pre-drawn, adventures that you can just get into to see how it's done before you even decide to world build on your own. I haven't done that in a long time as far as making my own. I did that when I was a kid, but I haven't done it so long that I'm trying to get my juices flowing again. But Wizards of the Coast gives you every opportunity to do anything you want with maps and the lore. They have backgrounds, they have years, they have the time of the month, they've got holidays, they've got everything you could possibly want to have in your own world when you get to that point. But if you just want to dig in and just get a game going, they make it super simple that way also. Between the Essentials kit and the Starter kit, they have two very great adventures already mapped out, tell you what to do, give you maps, get into the game, figure it out. And the thing is that that's the wonder about D&D. Ever since we were kids, it's all about what you want to make it, how you want to react, because the rules are just there to keep people from going off the rails. Otherwise, you can do whatever you want.
That's honestly amazing, and that's kind of what's sort of been bringing me to it, because I've always felt like it kind of has a nostalgic feeling reminiscent of like maybe couch co-op. Like I used to
Right.
play that a lot with my siblings or my cousins, and it was really a really great time. And I think that kind of interaction can bring back that feeling almost.
Right. And then you can take those worlds that they give you and you build on them. And then you can implement other things. You can take elements from Conan's world, or you can take elements from Game of Thrones world. You can do all that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter. They give you the means and so many monsters and so many different races and classes and all this stuff in multi-class. It's just endless. I'm so deep in the weeds now than I ever have been since I was a kid that it's ultimately mind-boggling the different ways you can go in this game.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to ask you. Just somebody, because it can be intimidating and it can be overwhelming. And I'm going to be honest with you on that. And that's probably part of the reasons why I didn't get back into it as quickly as I should have. And Octavio, who's probably been looking at the outside, who's been on the outside looking in, maybe it's been that type of scenario where Octavio, I don't want to speak for you, but was there an intimidation factor, or did you feel like you would be overwhelmed?
I'd say so. I feel like it's a whole skill to kind of develop, especially because I'm not really much of a like statistical kind of guy, and I know you got to kind of build your character in that way sometimes, and I'm not too great at that sometimes, but it's a little intimidating, yeah, still.
Well, I think that between the starter kit and the essentials kit, which is a little box kit, you can go out, you get it less than $20. It has everything you need to do for an adventure that lasts from 2 to 4 months. Honestly, it really can. You get a group of 4 or 5 people, and you can if you just get together once a week, you could definitely take 2 to 3 months to get through either adventure. And the starter kit's the better one. The essentials kit gives you a little more, but they both explain the rules to you in a way to where you just want to get up and go. They give you a quick build on each character. Once you get the way, it's just like any other video game. Once you get the statistics and the way, okay, this works with this and how everything is kind of coalescent. It's great. If you don't want to be a dungeon master, that's fine. Just be a player, read up on the players, find a person who can run a game and be a dungeon master, and then in you go. And you don't have to be a dungeon master to do this game. You can just get the essentials kit, move on to the player's handbook, move on, just be a player. It's just as fun as, I wish I could have just be a player. I was going back into this going, I don't want to DM anymore. I want to be a player, but nobody wanted to DM, so I ended up doing it again.
I'm sure it takes a certain kind of genius to do it. I praise you.
Genius, but maybe just a will to look the fool or look goofy and just do your thing, and that's all you got to do to be a dungeon master, honestly.
Well, okay, so let's say somebody is going to go in right now, like us. What would be the first thing that you would recommend? The first, if they were running, I don't want to say a checklist per se, but the first things that they would want to go ahead and do or check out before they go knee deep into it.
Get the starter kit and maybe get the essentials kit. Both of them actually play within the same map realm, in the same area, in the same town. You're gonna have the same hometown in both those games. That will take up your time for a minute, and as soon as you feel like you want more knowledge, then you can go out and get the bigger books. But if you get one or both of those kits, you're going to be set for a minute. They both tell you how to roll up characters. They both tell you how to run the game. They both come with dice. They both come with character sheets. Honestly, I think the essentials kit gives you a little more freedom and a little more leeway in creating your characters, and the starter kit is just more of a better adventure, but a quicker, like ready to go, like pre-made character sheets already. So it just depends. I mean, if you want both options, you're not going to be out more than $30 for both of them, and you're going to have every option you want.
And then also what was first recommended to me, and also recommended when I see on these Facebook boards, especially like the one that we joined, is a Roll20 account. And also, if you don't have it already, a Discord account. How do those two entities really help players, especially getting into it with other players, as far as a good game or a good game setting is concerned?
So right now, a friend of mine is DMing for the first time. He's never DM'd before, and he's like me. We're the same age. We played at the same time, but he never got to DM before. So I said to him, hey, you want to try it out? Let me know. So he went ahead and got an account, got on Roll20. That's where you can see the maps. That's where you can see your players. That's where you have tokens. That's where you keep track of your hit points and your character sheets. Discord just allows you to have a voice channel that's uninhibited by, say, the server on Roll20. It's just two different things you can roll simultaneously. No big deal. But if you want to role play and play from home and not have to get together, this has been the best scenario I've seen so far. And you could probably get a lot more sophisticated with cameras above board. You have to draw out your own maps and have an overhead camera on your table and throw that on another type of server with Twitch. Exactly. That's what I was trying to think of. Twitch would be able to allow you to do that and use Twitch as completely your own type of format. But if you don't have Twitch, then Roll20 and Discord allows you to combine your voice and then actually using maps on a screen so everybody can interact with that.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. And I can see why, because it's become very popular from what I was able to look at. And if it's free account, Discord's free. Start off with Roll20, it's free. So I mean, there's really getting into it is going to be a lot of fun. Just people have to take that plunge. And obviously, this is for the local gaming community here in Las Vegas. That's how I wanted to interact first. But there are groups out there on Facebook, Discord, wherever you want to go, Twitter, out there that will help you get started within the realm of Dungeons and Dragons.
Everybody's very cool with just getting new people involved, because honestly, when it comes to this game, the more people, the merrier. It's great. You have different opportunities to try different characters out or different adventures. And that's what everybody wants to do. Everybody wants to try out a little bit of everything. And, it allows that Facebook's page allows you to find places if you wanted to meet up and not at someone's house, like some game shops. There's at least 4 or 5 of them in town that I've seen that have the facilities for being able to do that.
I think that kind of freshness that everyone new can bring to the game kind of keeps up with its longevity for how long it's lasted. And you know what? I think people kind of search out that feeling still a lot, which is, I think, why this game has definitely made its way back into the spotlight in more recent times.
That's definitely, I mean, the artwork they put into these books and the lore and the monsters. It's just, I just sit around and read a book every other day just for 10 or 12 pages. And then I go to bed and I'm just like, wow, there's crazy stuff going on. It's more than I could ever imagine from 40 years ago.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a lot to think about, my friend. And I just truly appreciate you educating us on how to get things started. But if you were to give one last bit of advice to the noob here in Octavio and the old returning warrior here in myself, emphasis on old, I wanted to ask you, basically, what would be the one bit of advice to make sure that both of us have at least a good start into the world of Dungeons and Dragons?
I mean, if you're lucky enough to have some friends or family that have the same passion or interest in doing this game, then by all means, get together, get around a table, get 4 or 5 or 6 of you, and just, have a session 0, create your characters together, create your backstories that gives them life. Backstories give everything life. If you want to get into miniatures, which I've been doing, go for it. It helps out with a tactile visual for it, and just dive in. And honestly, there's honestly no wrong way to do it. I mean, if you got someone that wants to DM and reads up on it, and then you guys start out and you take a little chunk off that first adventure, just do the first one. It's the first little quest on it, and then you're going to be in there and you're going to get it just like that, and you're going to want to do it more the next week.
Well, I'll tell you what, Curtis, Octavio and I are going to go ahead and get involved and get our feet into the waters of Dungeons and Dragons. We're going to be setting up some games here in the near future. I'd love to go ahead and record it so our listeners can see what it or can listen to what it sounds like, and maybe even put it on StreamYard too for our viewers out there. So I'd love to get the opportunity to do that. Obviously, you've been a great help in coordinating that as well, as far as the posts that I put on there and speaking out on it. You were the first to do it, and I want to thank you for doing so. Again, it's been a great community to deal with here. And if anybody is in and around the Las Vegas, Clark County, North Las Vegas, Henderson area, and they want to get into Dungeons and Dragons, the first place you want to go to for advice is the Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, Henderson Dungeons and Dragons, all levels welcome public group on Facebook. Or if you're not from around here, there are just type in Dungeons and Dragons and look for the groups on Facebook. There's a lot of great groups. They ask a lot of awesome questions. There's always someone saying, hey, I'm a new person. I'm a new player. I really want to get into it. And there's a ton of people willing to help you out that want to go ahead and from all parts of the world get you involved in the world of Dungeons and Dragons.
Definitely. The reception in that group has just been amazing. There was probably about 30 comments on your post, like in about maybe a day or two. And that's amazing. Being in part of the gaming community in Las Vegas, I'm a part of a lot of those gaming groups. And yeah, I'll see quite a few of those posts, but I've never seen like a reception like that.
They're pretty awesome on that page. And honestly, I mean, just like myself, I've run into friends I've known for years. All of a sudden are coming on going, you play Dungeons and Dragons? I did too. Let's get back into it. You just never know. It's just one of those things.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's just been so great you helping us, getting us started and back into the world of Dungeons and Dragons. We're going to be playing our first games here, hopefully within the next week, 2 weeks or so. We're going to go ahead and hopefully document as best we can, and every step of the way, hopefully people will continue to observe what's going on. And if you are out there and you want to be a part of Dungeons and Dragons, now is the time to do it. It is unfortunate. It is, because of unfortunate circumstances, and everybody's staying at home. And we wish everybody to be safe and healthy out there. But you know what? Try to make the best thing. People are looking for things to do. People are looking for things to try. And a lot of us out there are either going into things for the first time or coming back to things that we haven't done in a long time. And one of those things should be Dungeons and Dragons. And Curtis, I appreciate so much your words of encouragement for us and helping us get back into it. And Octavio's getting into it, because it's certainly something that the time is right for us. And it's about time we get into some Dungeons and Dragons.
It's more than worth it. You'll get a lot out of it. You'll spend a lot of time, just maybe even finding things about yourself that you didn't even know when you get into role playing.
Oh my gosh. There's a lot of things I might not need to know when it comes to myself. Once again, I'm speaking to Curtis Watkins. I'm also here with Octavio Gomez. Dungeons and Dragons, it's a great adventure, and I hope everyone out there gets a chance to listen to it, to our adventures as we head off into the world of Dungeons and Dragons right here on the Pop Culture Cosmos.